Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live poetry reading featuring John Grabber, Francis James, Paul Mattis, and Willie James. As usual, I'll get us started off with a couple of my poems. First one is called There is a Pole. There is a pole to go to sleep, to dream of floating up a dark river towards a giant dog, more than happy to let me pass and allow my boat to rest on a granite shore. But no, I don't want to go where the woods are murky, and from the trees eyes stare as if there's something you should know. Every evening I create new intentions to keep that dream at bay.
Mm-hmm.
And my second poem is called You Guessed It. Walking down the street, hey, you're not swinging your arms. Parkinson's. I've been up an hour fighting the urge to take a nap. Reason why? Parkinson's. A man bowls a strike, turns around, falls down. You guessed it, Parkinson's. Kind of shaky today, getting hard to type. You guessed it, Parkinson's. Talking in a whisper, you say? Why don't you speak up? Parkinson's. Are those words written on the page or just chicken scratches? Just writing with Parkinson's. Walking out of the library so very slow. Why don't you walk faster? I can't. Parkinson's. A man at a party. Aren't you having fun? Yes. You don't show it. You guessed it, Parkinson's. Waking up from a dream, shouting for police, hitting the wall. You guessed it, Parkinson's. The doctor said, if the pills work, then you have it. Damn it, Parkinson's.
Yeah, love that.
Our first poet tonight is John Grabber. He lives in Stockholm, Wisconsin with his wife, Elsie. He holds degrees from St. Olaf College and the Iowa Writers Workshop. He taught K College before complications of bipolar mood disorder retired him from full-time teaching. His workshop, The Writing and Repair of Poetry, has been popular. His book, Thanksgiving Dawn, was nominated for a 2010 Pushcart Prize, and Only on This Planet is a Parallel Press chapbook. Take it away, John.
Okay. A long time ago, I was working on a really dark poem called Bride Inside. It was a long poem, about 4 pages. And we had it all spread out across the table. And my son, 6 years old at the time, Sam, he came down and he said, "Oh, Dad, read me your poem." And I said, "I'm sorry, Sam, I can't. It's really dark. It's really dark and it's scary." So, and he said, "Well, Dad, why don't you ever write a poem the kid can read?" And so that was a challenge. And luckily, they had heard from National Geographic. They sent a record with the song of the humpback whale. And that whale sings really low. And on that record, it said that if you speed up the song of the whale 17 times, it sounds like spring birds. And that was something I put on the shelf. I'm going to write a poem about that someday. And here it is. Like Russian dolls inside each other. Sam's song. Inside a grain of sand, an egg. Inside the egg, a sea. Inside the sea, a whale. Inside the whale, a song. Inside the song, a bird. Inside the bird, a story. Inside the story, a tear. Inside the tear, a child. Inside the child, a laugh. Inside the laugh, all of us. Inside all of us, a grain of sand. And I heard, "Say it again, Daddy." And that was the best review I ever got in my life. So this next one has a title, Standing in the Middle of My Life. And it's taken from the first sentence of Dante's Inferno. In the middle of the road of my life, I woke in the dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. And that seems rather dark, but there's far more grace in this poem than there is fear. This is a true vision poem. Down this road, above my Mississippi, along Lake Pepin I have often walked, but never seen what I have seen today. Down the steep bank through sumac reds and past the ash and willow yellows, impossibly swimming in cold October water, were all the people I can't forgive, and all who I fear can't forgive me. And they all were happy, wet with forgiveness, all glad to be wearing the same robe of water. They were all one and all was forgiven. But how could I trust their faces, calling me into the same water they swam in? How could I let their water flow over me? How can forgiving and being forgiven be the same? How can both cover me as it covers them, as is the nature of water? How could I have stood and just watched? Overcoming that fear at the end, it's going to have something to do with the heart. And I was sitting one day and I thought, normally if you take something away, what's left is lighter. But if you take something away from the heart, it's heavier. And so that's an inversion of the physics rules of the science. And I thought, well, I wonder if there's some more inversions that I could make that would tell something about the heart. The inverted physics of the heart. In the realm of the heart, when something is taken away, the heart is heavy. This is the gravity of the heart. When something is embraced, the heart is light. This is the levity of the heart. When something is gripped tightly, it leaves, and when set free, it remains. In the realm of the heart, resistance creates cold. Silence speaks with the greatest volume, and time's pendulums swing unequally. 1 second can be a year, and years a moment. In the realm of the heart, the perfectly smooth cannot be moved. As friction increases, things slide away, and pushing from opposite directions splits the heart. In the realm of the heart, the hardest work is determined by the least distance traveled and how little it's held or raised. Efficiency is achieved by expending the greatest magnitude of energy in the appreciation of small matters. An action does not have an equal and opposite reaction. When two hearts meet, they go on together indefinitely. In the realm of the heart, with its lever, the mind, the heart needs no place to stand to move the world. As I said in the introduction, I have a bipolar mood disorder, and that creates some really dark times. And when you're down there in the pit, you can't really write anything. But on the way up, sometimes you're so glad that you actually have a sense of humor. And this poem is like that. It was the editor of the Journal of the American Medical Association said this was the best poem on depression that he had ever heard. Now, Dictionary of Anatomy, I give a word or a phrase, and then I define it. Quite simply, sleep is the meaning of life. Resisting gravity becomes a bad idea. Creative thought concludes a bathrobe is a wardrobe. Sudden insight notes that no one needs to shave. Existential choice puzzles between coffee now or later. Discovery sighs that baby powder does cool the flaming creases. Making love is staying on your own side of the bed. Simultaneous orgasm yawns and stretches at the same time. Social conscience smells your armpits. Civic responsibility keeps your arms down. Working out is a productive round trip to the bathroom. Anticipation waits for your dog to check if you're breathing. Breakthrough gets up by 11. Relapse goes to bed before 8. Optimism believes you'll think of something you can do. Pessimism remembers that you don't do it well. Fear guesses that you might be made of glass. Hope insists you will respect yourself again. Faith knows faith is still out there somewhere, offering itself to you. Love bets the love surrounding you is just enough to contain your reasons to die. Never say die. At the door. This slate blue river is a green going, a promise of paradise around the bend. It fills me enough to stay in the skin and do my solemn dance of I'll not die. All this from a river on a morning's first sunny day in a month, wrapping every contradictory bone of my body with forgiveness for dropping so many leaves in June and budding out so much in October and living such a colorless life in between. But now is the river, and now is the sun on skin. Now is feeling again the true love of my senses. This is no time to feel like my dog looks when he thinks I'm mad at him. Instead, my soul says to me, "Do you want to go for a walk?" And I am down on the floor with back arched and front paws stretching out, and the God of real water and sunshine says to me, "All right then, let's do it." Right out the door. And the last poem is called While in St. Peter's, Rome. And my dad got a Fulbright and the family went to Europe. And we were in seeing the St. Peter's Cathedral. And we were there to see Michelangelo's Pieta, which in those days was right there in the church over on the chapel on the side. My dad pointed out that the feet of Christ were worn away by hundreds of years of pilgrims that reached up and touched it for a blessing and with love. And I was thinking that even as 9, I said, love wore away stone. Stone was worn away by love. While in St. Peter's, Rome. I think the world is like the feet of the Pieta, and shines out of the dark arches only when touched by hands that believe in it. I think that when the feet are worn away by touch, people will climb up the body of Christ until he's worn onto a world of hands, a shining marble dust. And then the night's white, worn pearl, river, stone, moon, Mary will smile, and we'll all be home. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you, John. Enjoy those poems. Next up is Frances James. She was born and raised in Minnesota, where she still resides with a great love for the lakes. She's an artist of many trades and uses her creative passion to produce meaningful poetry, music, photography, and artwork. Frances is known for her ability to share honest and intimate pieces of her heart with the mission to inspire others to do the same. Creativity and self-expression are her way of preserving the human experience. Her other hobbies include walks in nature, traveling, fishing, cuddling with her dog Romeo, and spending quality time with loved ones. Let's hear Frances.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Ron, and Minneapolis Television Network. I'm really honored to be here. And John, those were wonderful poems. Thank you so much. And bear with me, my throat is a little under weather. I have a cold, so, but I didn't want to miss this. So I have some nature poems and I have some poems about mental illness. So just kind of a trigger warning there. Okay. This poem is called All the Things That Aren't My Own. When I was 8, the swamp and the woods behind our house were my sister's. When I knew she'd be gone for a few hours, I'd walk excitedly to the trees, check both ways before crossing. My feet, soon cushioned by muddish sanctuary, green all around, smelled like a prize. Sticks gave underneath me as I passed. I pulled branches strategically like a harp. I moved kindly. I treaded lightly. Birds checked in on each other, otherwise silence, though the wind occasionally said hello. I'd sit on the trunk of the huge maple tree that had fallen into the marsh, thinking not much of anything. If it was winter, I gathered pussy willows, passing cattails and high grasses. The frozen muck crackled under my boots. I'm a voyager, or Pocahontas, or just brave. Walking back home, I'd step in my sister's footprints, leaving no evidence I was there. Okay, let's see here. This one's called Summers of Horses. Growing up, I spent most of my summers in British Columbia, and it's always been a very healing place for me. All right. Summers of horses are the best of memories. With my friend Haley, we braid mane and tail, our horses Teddy and Coco as content as can be. They chomp on freshly gathered grass while we take our time brushing their fur coats and placing flowers between their thick caramel hair. My new saddle sits in the tack room, still unmarked and leather fumed. We prefer the friendship in bareback, the gentleness of a harness, riding until it's too dark to see. We assembled jumps made of branches and rocks. We practice barrels in the field. Some days we take the horses to the pond to cool off, the soft clay mud on our feet. I swim quick so I won't see the big fishes. The horses munch on milk thistle weeds. The mountains always rest at our side. Traveling the dirt road to the general store, we fill paper bags with chewy treats, scan the VHSs for a movie to rent, though we always end up watching Mysteries Unexplained. Here is where my heart is. No sense or need of time. Sipping water from the hose beside the barn. Checking the chicken coop for eggy bounty. Looking between hay bales for playful kittens. Feeding the horses carrots from the garden. Eating snap peas by the bowl. It's easy to be happy where stillness hasn't heard of city noise. A single bird brings music through the trees. Seedlings in wild grass push through a bed of pine needles and fallen trunks. A bear crosses the man-made trails not far from the pasture, the cloudless nights of glowing stars. All right, this poem is called Another Poem About Bipolar. What people don't tell you, don't know how to explain, is that bipolar is a constant climb and a consistent falling. It's an amusement park where everyone else is amused. A roller coaster that never ends. A ride where the start and finish seem to blend. A person can only hang tight, try to find a grip, and pray. Bipolar is a scene on repeat while desperately looking for a stable connection, a word or place to hope for rest. It's the ground and the flying, both the view and the deep down cold dirt. It's knowing both more intimately than any intimacy to date. Okay. All right, this one's called Crash. How do you undo love? Unfasten your heart like a seatbelt, jump while car flying, braking against new ground when you don't want to. Let go or be dragged, I half alive demand again, praying for softer roads, oh heavens, I'd believe, but I guess God knows better. Am I willing to risk unmarked territories when I'll never be ready? You can't change when you're not willing. You can't learn if you're not growing. Walk or run or crawl, I'm going, even though I love him. Okay. All right, this one's called Maybe Life is Good. I'm taking pills because they work, eating because I'm hungry, singing because I'm happy. I'm witnessing firsthand the myth contentment, befriending mysteries, holding hands with my feelings, laughing because the hurt isn't smothering, crying because I'm grateful. I'm believing what I say to friends, practicing boundaries, listening to my own advice, becoming who I say I am. I'm experiencing the realness of joy and the truth that survival is worth it. How does an hour become a day becomes a week, and now a timeline of months without an urgency? I'm learning it's okay to explore options, say no, have a faith that isn't misery. To be in awe of my broken soul in a fleshy outfit, I am skull and bones with spirit. What a crazy, beautiful ride. I'm honoring the journey it has taken and the toll of scars and stretch marks, how a body has resilience. Another day to be, another gift of try. I don't need to know tomorrow, only exist and all will come or go. My soul speaks to my body to breathe without my forcing it to. I've found hope. There is a loving source that wants us to live, to know our dreams, even if we forget we want to. I'm alive to tell you, maybe life is good. Maybe life is what we make it. Here's a short nature poem that I wrote while I was up here actually in Ely, a couple years back. It's called Burnt Side. That's the name of the lake. Take me to that place where gentle waves greet shoreline rock, where flowers have freedom and the loons can sing loudly in the night. Bring me back, the sunsets plead, while the wind lives to feel its way through these trees. A place where magic is possible and alive, and I'm at peace. And I think, do I have time for one more? I'm not sure what I'm doing on time. I'm okay. All right, this one's called I Am My Journey. Excuse me. At some point, my actions met my heart. I couldn't turn away, only in. I couldn't run, couldn't hide. My heart was clear and full of him. I dared to sing along. I always tell people that life comes down to choices. I can't say one is right or wrong. We can only seek that for ourselves. For myself, a lot of it is faith. Faith that I was knowing myself correctly, trusting that I could trust what keeps knocking, keeps showing up. Faith that I didn't have all the answers, but something greater than myself knows best. Destiny is persistent, but it also respects boundaries. Choice is a thing of doing, a map that we see with our souls, a map that appears upon moments of courage. Resilience comes by our own 2 feet, our own blood, sweat, and tears. I am a mountain of grit in a valley that looks up for the sun. Life is partly what happens to us, but mostly what we do. I continue to heal. I ask and hold space for what is trying to reach me. And I've made a life for myself with God as my strength. Perhaps that is what remains most important to me. God is my breath, but I am my journey. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a privilege to be here.
Thank you, Francis. Maybe life is worth it. Next up, we have Paul Mathis. Paul Mathis is a co-host of the monthly Midstream reading series. His work has been published in the Taylor and O'Neill Open Through Interpretation volume Writer's Edge. He has appeared at a number of readings in the Twin Cities, including Carol Connolly's Reading by Writers series. He lives in St. Paul. Take away, Paul.
Thank you. And thank you, Ron, for inviting me. And thank you, everyone else, for participating. First poem is called Unfathomable Crap. This poem is unfathomable crap, beyond editing, unworthy of reading, publishing, or reciting, of accolades, of odes to its profundity, of serious attempts at interpretation. This poem feels no shame. Your derision falls on deaf ears. It doesn't even care enough to taunt you back. Best to ignore it. Let it die of neglect. Let it stink like a fish. Let it curl and dry, then put it in the compost pile to frighten the unsuspecting. What the hell is that? They'll shriek and drop their bucket of nice clean kitchen scraps as this poem stares up at them with its one empty eye its half-open mouth with rows of tiny teeth, seeking deeper meaning as it slowly turns back into thought energy that next time might turn out a little better. Okay, second one is called Milk. The prices were wrong. The prices on the milk were wrong. The checkout line had stopped while the cashier worked out what had happened. A customer had nearly been charged incorrectly. The manager took me over to the dairy case to show me my handiwork. I had stamped the right prices on the row of half-gallon cartons of low-fat and then kept on marking the low-fat price on the whole milk. It was the end of the world, but not the end of my shift. I still had 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to go. Hours of not folding my arms when I was standing still because it looked lazy. Hours of aches in places I didn't know I had from unloading crates from the truck in the back. Hours of being an ant under a magnifying glass in the sun, being taught a work ethic. Hours rewarded by a few bills pulled straight from the register at the end of the day, counted out like I didn't deserve them. This one is called I Just Have to. I don't remember your name. I'm sorry for that. I remember it was beautiful. You told it to me when I told you mine, as we hugged before sitting back down. You'd looked right over from your table at my son and me. I looked back and blinked. You raised your upturned palms. Get up, you seemed to say. Get up now. As I started to rise, you got to your feet and held out your arms to dance. There was always music in that restaurant, Cuban music, but I'd never responded with more than a shuffle on the way to the table or a rhythmic sway of impatience while waiting. With my left arm around your waist, my right hand joining your left, we danced a little off balance in the narrow aisle, servers skirting around us. We danced and you leaned in and said, "Do you feel it?" We danced and you said, "When I feel it, I just have to." This one is called I Could Do That. Now that you've ended our relationship, would you consider having a fake friendship instead? We could see each other regularly, but not romantically, and I could prove I'm over you by not going insane. I could listen sympathetically to your ongoing travails, the boyfriend of the moment, the one half your age you can't get over, the one who talks marriage while you squirm, how you'd rather just get a St. Bernard. I could hear that without ever flinching. I could prove that by sheer force of will, I can declare my deepest feelings for you null and void and replace them with an intense yet platonic bond. I could be your confidant instead of your lover. I could handle being that person over lunch or coffee every week or two. I could practice saying the right thing so fast you'd never know it was made up. I could spend each hour with you stifling what I would normally say to anyone I was really friends with. I could string myself along on the barest hope that one day you would come to your senses and once again see me, your best buddy across the table, in that special way you once saw me and how I always see you. I could do that longer than most people can hold their breath or wait for the dentist to finish. I could do that because I am strong. I don't abandon people. I never let go, and I can treat my heart like some sort of allergy. So the more I saw you, the less I would care. I know I could do that, but only if it's okay with you. This one doesn't have a title, but it does have 3 parts. 1. Summers spent with the insides of my pants stuck to my knees. Pants with reinforced knees. Plastic reinforcements you could see from the outsides. From the Husky department at Sears. The tag inside reading Husky, in gold italicized serif capital letters. They might as well have been neon, husky dungarees, husky underwear, synthetic fabrics that bound and pinched and never wore out. You had to outgrow them. 2. A shiny dark green clip-on tie, 2 plastic prongs spread under my collar, 1 plastic hook poking at my throat, joyfully yanked free before my foot hits the 2nd step outside the Sunday school door, purposefully dropped on the floor of my closet, dusted off, smoothed flat, and jammed on again next week. 3. Work boots, steel-toed, lug-soled, eyes for laces giving way to hooks, half a size too small already. In social studies, in English, in math, I resist the urge to take them off and set my toes free. I struggle not to think of their confinement. Insanity lies that way, glorious screaming, equalizing the pressure, escape. But I wait. And the last one tonight is called Leaving Northborough. My throat was so full of words that none could escape as Gail and I pushed Northborough away hard, further and further behind us. We'd left the duplex with the flooded basement, the attic fan that sucked insects through the screens, the cheap brown carpets, the loose newel post, the fool next door, his girlfriend, and his BMW out front. My station wagon and the rented trailer were filled with things too precious to trust to movers. We brought 2 ferrets, 1 dead, from the freezer to bury, a carefully packed box of antique pottery, and a dozen houseplants I would kill on the front porch of our new place, unloading the car in the cold. We left a mountain of rubbish on the deck from the final frenzy of packing and hoped our haulers would take it. I told Gail her electric typewriter was still in the attic near the hatch. All she said was, yes. We brought pillows and blankets and contraceptive sponges. We left my acid reflux in the master bedroom with its windows at perfect eye level for the engineers of passing trains. We left our shouting matches, the floors stomped on and pounded with fists, and the bitter silences that followed. We stared through the windshield and waited for home to arrive. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next up is Willie James. He is a poetry editor at Pacifica Literary Review. He is the recipient of scholarships from the Breadloaf Writers Conference and W by W Tamales Bay Workshop, as well as the runner-up for the Rhino's 2017 Founders Prize Poetry Contest. His work has appeared in Rhino Poetry, the Los Angeles Review, and his work's coming in the Laurel Review. Let's hear Willie.
Thank you, Ron. And thank you, Paul, Francis, and John. That was a pleasure. And once again to Ron, thank you for gathering us all together. I really appreciate the invitation to read here. Most of the poems that I'm going to read are from the past couple of years. They're thinking a lot about kind of family and home. I live a few thousand miles away from my family and my original home, and so I think that's been on my mind, especially since COVID. They're also kind of playing with like a little bit of the fantastic and the little bit fairy tale kind of feel too. So, Little Legs. Long ago, I was a bear in a cave. I ignored my family. Each little cub, with their own little legs, fled through the cracks and earth like memories. I heard them. They didn't come back, the memories. Bent low as ceilings, cold with sweat and rust, like all my poems. I was so hungry. I slept a whole season and then the next. I dreamed a world full of hair. I descended into its armor until it clasped like a small pool in sleep, dark as chainmail. I slipped from this world, its thought and time, till mid-spring I stood up. I followed 1,000 loose branches of an apple tree. I devoured every leaf, their acorns nested like starlings beneath my fur. And even though the sun laid out its blue carpet on the earth, dead from winter again, I didn't look up, not as the sky filled with apples or rivers or moon rings peeled like skin off old nails. Not for one blue second that day or the next, I didn't look up toward that world hurrying to gather its one desperate handbag with anything it once loved to help it love again. Our moms. If you, like me, get a chance to see yours, the wheels of your whole day will knock off their treads. You'll know them as you've always known them, their chicken necks jutting far out over the shoreline. Look up at their otherworldly bodies, at their legs, their mile-long legs stepping to and fro, long cranes pecking tides for shells of long-gone crustaceans. Sometimes it's just like in their dirty palms, finding a pocket to dispose a single dirty tissue is all I needed today. Today, over the shoulders of my entire life, their large bodies stomp and wade, and I just don't know how they hold me this way. And this next poem's actually for my niece, who I'll share this recording with my sister later so she gets a chance to hear it. But yeah, it's for my niece who's a constant surprise and delight. It's titled Nora. I don't talk about this same shirt I've worn for days. Each year, an age of mold growing a queer silence on its shoulders. Don't talk too much either about so many lamps left on, each outlet's long cord roped. I can't name, though, toward which light. Each night, though, my niece, two eyes like bison grazing off the side of her head, could. She could tell you, and she would laugh. Two shoes the color of tracing paper, her legs knee-high at best, travel the sweet gloom of September, an hour past the hour she should be in bed. And no matter how angry I get for days each year, she grows a ring of silence in her small body's trunk. Her thoughts bending their large necks over the brown grass, smiling. And then these next couple of poems, in March 2022, I lost a very close friend to suicide. And since then, I've found him turning up in a lot of the things I've been writing. So these next poems are really dedicated to him and his brother, Jack, who he's always been close to me, but particularly since then. So, car fire. And so delight and wreck teetered in the late night. The chassis turned furnace, turned trembling heartbeat of flame, chasing air for sky, run ragged from the jet black it began to the final charcoal it rested. Charred now under night, and so delight departed. And so delight from the body trashed to flame turned wrecked and smoke, mistaken for kindness of relief, that night calling friends, calling family, trying not to weep. Smoke just goes like a thick, flat tongue that doesn't speak, that stumbles heavenward with its incessant mutter of grief, the undergrads knocking their thick souls, pavement after pavement, street after street. And here I am walking, here I am waking, a shape unveiling its smolder in the empty suede, splintered from the empty car's seat, staring to study what has passed. Delight into wreckage, teetered into gas. This one's for Tom. Tonight, I'll just sweep this future's long plain of moaning breezes good night. June and April and March, tell me your story, dark as a song hissing from dead screens. Tell me this quiet moment with your heavy and certain frown, spring night with your upturned collar, how you travel this trail of empty buckets below these maples, whose whole season has collected into one dark, viscid pitch. How did I make it one long plain, this deep night, bitter as salt, heavy iron shoes? I slept on your tongues, praying the night for campfires of your breath. This one's to Jack, Tom's brother. All night, I kept imagining you, the four legs of a computer chair, two on the floor as if a body weren't there, raising up on its hind legs over the brown fur the cat abandoned next to Dawn. Yes, it is so early, and we all keep falling asleep and thinking we are falling asleep alone, carrying the enormous casket of a day, inheriting the dozen points of a comb, trying, then trying again to straighten our hair. And this next poem will be my last poem. It's called Candlelight in the Garden. For whole seasons, each carrot's low wick breached the buttoned parka of the earth. Even the dark steals from the dark, my spade digs rasping. And when pitch is soon sown, folded and padded, burned and smoothed, my primary state is a boy still crowned with the eggshell of confusion. Too still you rest no more than a turnip beneath. In the spring, I am here waiting for the help of any magic, for a person, a friend, to untuck your small handkerchief from any sleeve of earth. For maybe in a season you could still grow 100 feet taller with everything but legs to join me and your old life. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. Enjoyed those quite a bit. Thanks everybody for listening tonight. Thanks all the poets for reading. Thanks Valerie Lockhart and the Minneapolis Television Network for putting this on. And hope to do another one in a couple of months. Take care. Thanks.